The opinions and views expressed in the following program are those of the speakers and the host, and do not necessarily reflect those of Yoakley Scott Corporation and Your Sports Network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
And welcome into Running Point on ysnlive.com, brought to you as always by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. I'm going to go ahead and put them in the top right-hand corner of the screen so you know where to go. If you are in the market for a new or used vehicle, there's no better place to go than our friends at Greenwood. And boop, there you go, up there in the top right corner. Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. They've been a proud sponsor of Running Point for quite a bit of time now. We thank them for always believing in this show, what this show provides, what this show can be. And we definitely couldn't do what we do without their generosity and their belief in what we can do, not just on Running Point, but also a big sponsor on YSN as well. So we always take our time to thank Greenwood Chevrolet. And if you are a fan of the show, you should do the same. And remember, if you're in the market for a new or used vehicle, they go the extra mile for you so you don't have to. And we try to do the same here on this show every single day. We're going to have a great show for you today. Obviously, we're going to go over what happened over the weekend on the basketball court. We have one team going to Dayton and other teams that are celebrating really good seasons coming to an end in the regional finals. And then we also have a really awesome, really cool interview that we're going to feature today from Adria Powell, former Hubbard Eagle and current pro volleyball player in Germany. I think this is the first time we've gotten an interview from Europe. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time we've gone over to Europe for an interview. She joined me from Germany, from Seoul, Germany, which is right in the middle of the country, by the way, right in that center Germany area. So she joined me from there over the weekend, well, last weekend, I should say, and we're going to feature her interview here on today's show. One of the best volleyball careers anyone has put together from the area, right up there with Nia Grant, who's also a pro volleyball player out of Holland, playing in Grand Rapids Rise right now in the Pro Volleyball Federation. Here in the United States, she was a Holland grad, went to Penn State. So, her and Adria are right there, 1 and 2. When you talk about volleyball players in the area that have gone on to do, exceptional things when you talk about professional volleyball after college. Adria Powell spent her college career at Ohio State first. She went there. She graduated from Ohio State, and then as a grad transfer, finished out her volleyball career at the University of Clemson in the ACC. And man, what a great collegiate career! And got the opportunity to go and play in Germany as a pro for the last couple months, and she has been over there since about mid-February, and playing with the Wolfpack out of Zool from Germany. So got a good chance, a great interview with her about her whole journey, what she went through at Hubbard, what lessons she learned here in the area, graduating early to go to Ohio State because injuries made Ohio State kind of desperate for bodies, and the coach called her and said, "Hey, you know what? You have the credits to graduate. Would you consider coming up here a year early and starting your freshman career?" And from that moment on, from that decision where she just said, "You know what? I'm going to take the opportunity by the horns and run with it." That has been her motto throughout every challenge or decision that has come up in her career. Graduating Ohio State, where do I go next? All right, Clemson wants me. Let's go to South Carolina, way further away from home than Ohio State. Let's just run with it. I want to be a professional volleyball player. Germany wants me. It's obviously a brand new country, a new culture. Let's just get on a plane. And she loves to say YOLO. So, yeah, YOLO, let's get on a plane and let's go. And that grab it by the horn attitude to just say, you know what, opportunities here. Throw caution to the wind almost a little bit. You don't want to do that too much, but when opportunity knocks, sometimes you have to be a little bit like that. And she's been like that her whole career. And what a great conversation. Can't wait to, don't want to spoil too much of it, but a great conversation that we're going to feature in the second half of the show. So stay tuned for that as we continue Running Point. But we start with the scoreboard as we always do on ysnlive.com. Let's go into it. We'll pop it up full screen for you. We'll start with Friday. We had one game go down on Friday in Canton. It was in Division 4. And let me pop up the scoreboard here real quick. There you go. And make it full screen. All right, so YSN Scoreboard brought to you by Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs. It is a great tool for our fans, whether you're at one of the games or watching one of our broadcasts. Either way, you don't want to look away from the action for too long, and the YSN Scoreboard is a quick and easy way to get live updated scores from your favorite teams across the YSN family. We have a great team behind the scenes to make sure these scores are live updated so you don't have to wait until late at night for the scores to come rolling in. And you can find it all at ysnlive.com/scores. Once again, proudly presented by Burnett Pools, Spas, and Hot Tubs. Let's go into Friday. Richmond Heights and JFK playing each other in the regional final. And it's still Richmond Heights' world. And we're all living in this region. They prove why they're the dominant team in the region. They win 95-61 over Warren JFK. And I think, like I said this last week, anyone that said that 16-9 record meant that Richmond Heights is somehow down this year or not the Richmond Heights that we're used to seeing, all they did is make it harder for the teams in the region to beat them, because it really just it put sand in their boots a little bit, and it fired them up to hear that talk throughout the season. And then going into this postseason, a lot of people just looked at that record and said, you know what, this was a 29-0 team last year, went undefeated, won the state championship. They have 9 losses now. They can't be the same Richmond Heights. And all through the tournament so far, it's been nothing but domination for the Spartans. They go into the state semifinals trying to repeat as state champions in Division 4. Let's go over the stats of this game real quick and see what the tail of the tape was. So for Richmond Heights, they had 4 players in double figures. They were led by Dorian Jones, who had 24 points, 17 points from Damaris Winters, Damaris Winters Jr. He had 16 points as well for Richmond Heights from another junior. A lot of juniors on this team, as far as name goes, not junior class-wise. Hosea Steele Jr., he had 16. And then another junior, which tells me the bloodlines in Richmond Heights are very thick. Derek Barber Jr. scored 13 for their 4th player in double figures. That's usually JFK's motto, trying to get 4 players in double figures. We talked about it at length previewing this game. They have 4 players that average double figures on the season. Well, their top 2 scorers did get in the double figures. In fact, a really good game out of Nick Ryan, who scored 22 points. Michael Gondolian had 16 points. He was able to hit a 3 and really get to the free throw line pretty well. He got to the free throw line 8 times, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was the most that anyone got to the free throw line in the game. So he led in that category. He had 5 of 8 at the line, and then 8 of 8 at the line was Nick Ryan. So Warren JFK did do a really good job getting to the free throw line. They had 19 free throw attempts compared to Richmond Heights 16. So they beat them in that category. But the unfortunate part for Warren JFK is the second and the third and fourth double figure scores just could not get into a rhythm. Nico Seminaro, who averages double figures, had 6. Jane Richel, who averages double figures, had 5. So just too much defense for all 4 of them to go off, and that was really the difference. Richmond Heights had 4 players all scoring, all doing a really good job on offense, and Richmond Heights defense let some things slide with the top 2 scorers for Warren JFK. Nick Ryan had about the best game you could have, and Michael Gondolian as well with 16. Both got to the free throw line 8 times, but it was the other players that just could not get off the ground for JFK. The most anyone outside of those 2 scored was 6 points from Nico Seminaro. So very hard to have a balanced attack against this Richmond Heights team, but that was a big difference maker in this game. That's that inability to find ways to score outside of those 2, Michael Condolian and Nick Ryan. So Warren JFK's season ends in the regional finals. What a great season it was. And I think despite falling short of the state semifinals, I think what Coach K said before the season, where he said this is the team everyone's been waiting for at JFK, was absolutely true. They went through the season. They had their slight chances of adversity that could have, put them in a lull. It never did. They went right through the tournament. They got all the way to the regional finals, one step away from state, and they ran into a power saw in Division 4. Right now, it's not a good time to have a really good team in our region, because you're playing a Richmond Heights team that as a program right now is just living on the top of the world. They are talent-wise probably the best team in Division 4, and it's not even close. The only thing that's going to beat them in this state tournament, in my honest opinion, is themselves. If they show up and don't have a good game, or they turn the ball over, or they don't shoot well, yeah, someone can beat them. But if they're just playing like they have been throughout this tournament, no one's going to get in Richmond Heights' way for this trip to Dayton. They're putting together this weekend. So Richmond Heights wins. They get into Dayton. They get into the state semifinals, and they're going for another state championship. They won undefeated state championship last year. We go into Saturday. Cardinal Mooney started off the day at 2 o'clock in Canton. They played Lutheran East, and it was a tough game for Mooney as they fell 56-43. The final score there, Lutheran East gets the win over Mooney. And really a pretty competitive game in this one. One of those ones that you pretty much could see going either way. As we look at the recap from this one, and we'll see that the numbers kind of back up that point, that it was a pretty even basketball game that did not this didn't go Mooney's way. Lutheran East had a 20-5 record coming into the game. Mooney was 22-5. Obviously, 2 more games played. The Lutheran East was a 1 seed in Division 3. They played Ravenna Southeast, Wellington, and Fairview along the way. Those were their tournament wins. And Mooney was the 4 seed in Division 3. First quarter was on the right foot. Mooney struggled to find offense, and the Falcons utilized missed attempts and turned several of them into quick offense the other way. So transition game for Lutheran East set the tone. They led 16-8 after the first quarter. That's when the offense for Cardinal Mooney got going a little bit. As they were able to score a little bit more in the second half, and unfortunately Lutheran East was up for the task too. 28-14, the score at halftime. And when you're down like that, it was an even second half, as you can see. Mooney played even, lost the second half by 1 point after being down by 14 for the first half. So they played much better in the second half, but when you find yourself in that kind of hole in the regional finals, just too much of a mountain to climb. You're down by 14. You only score 14 points in the half. A really good second half, really good adjustments made by Coach Palermo, who I think one of the better coaches in the area, hands down. Who you'll be able to see coach on the sidelines in the All-Star game on Sunday. Just one of those games where when you find yourself down by that much, and all of a sudden you can't play even, you have to play better. You have to win the second half by 14. A tough task. And if Mooney erases that first half where they struggled to score a little bit, maybe this game gets close down the stretch. Who knows what happens? But second half, Mooney was the one that kind of proved, okay, you know what? We had a tough first half. We did, but we belong on this court. And I think they proved that. I think they proved that they belonged in that regional final and that they could have competed with Lutheran West if they play, 3 or 4 more times. Who knows? Mooney might take 2 or 3 of those because of what they showed in the second half and how much they really played well in that second half, keeping it even. So first half comes back to haunt Cardinal Mooney, those scoring droughts. You just can't do it. You can't go a quarter scoring 6 points and think you're going to win a regional final. It doesn't work like that. So unfortunately for Mooney, they fall to Lutheran East, and their season ends one step away from Dayton as well. We go into the last one. We were guaranteed a winner, and the Ysn family here is Ursuline and Canfield playing each other. This was a 10-point game back in the beginning of the season when they played each other for the first time this year. It was the second game of the year, and it was 70-60. And that made everyone in Canfield, I think, really optimistic that they could turn the tide and get close to Ursuline. But the way Ursuline played that regional semifinal, I was like, man, this team looks very locked in. Very locked in. And they played a really good defensive game in that regional semifinal against an offense that averaged way more points than they did. That VASJ team averaged almost 20 more points than Ursuline on the season. And they had multiple scores. We went over the whole preview. We went over what VASJ brought to the table on offense, on the offensive side of the ball. And Ursuline just played absolutely tremendous defense against that team. And then they came out against Canfield, and they did the same thing. They held Canfield's most prominent threats down for most of the game. Dom Cruz had a really tough start, and if you slow down Dom Cruz, that's step one for Canfield. And the differences in this game compared to the wins that Canfield had in the district championship, the district semis, in the regional semifinals as well, is Canfield could not get their secondary scores to get enough into this game. When teams were slowing down Dom Cruz, especially in that district championship, you saw a lot of other players who don't normally score for Canfield a lot step up and take that load off of his shoulders. And that just didn't happen against this Ursuline defense. It was suffocating all night, as you can see from the final score, holding this Canfield team to 36 points. Not very easy to do. Not as good as offensive output as we saw in the regional semifinals for Ursuline, but more than enough to get the win, 60-35. The final score here. I want to give a big shout out to this Ursuline team, especially on defense. We've talked to Coach Gunther a lot over the last 3 or 4 years since we've had Ursuline as a YSN team. He is a defensive coach, first and foremost. He has a lot of talent on offense, and he's had a lot of talent on offense through the years, but he has never let that sway him from being defense first. And at times this year, especially in the first half of the season, this younger Ursuline team probably wasn't playing the defense he wanted them to play. Even some of the wins they had, they were giving up too many points. They were giving up stretches where it was just too easy for other teams to score. They weren't consistent. They got a little lackadaisical at times on defense. One game that I think stood out for their defense that I think was a turning point, I want to look it up here because I know it was right before that South Range game because I was preparing to call that South Range game, getting ready for it, and looking at the teams they played before. And I remember the one game I'm pulling up right now, right before South Range. It was one of those ones where you go, oh, it's the Fitch. Fitch came back and beat them 73-64, but they had a double-digit lead in the second half in that game. And that was probably the turning point of their defensive season. That was the one point when they said, hey, guys, we can't be inconsistent on defense anymore because teams that we play are good enough to take advantage of that. Fitch was. They came back and ended up winning that game by 9, even though they trailed by double figures in the second half. So Fitch made them pay a little bit for a little bit of inconsistency on defense. And you look at from that time on, The most points they allowed was 53 to Howland in overtime. So that's 4.5 periods to get 53 for Howland. They allowed 73 against Fitch. So right after that game, they got that lesson pounded in their head that we cannot give up this kind of stuff on defense anymore. And their next, what is that? That would be, I'm going to count up the number of games real quick between Fitch and where they're at now. So the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games. 12 games after Fitch. They have not allowed anywhere close to 73 cents. In fact, the highest total is 53. Sometimes you need a game like that to get it into your head that this is not the standard. And they were winning a lot before that Fitch game. They were a really good team. They were getting away with some, missteps on defense before that Fitch game because of how talented they were. They went into that Fitch game, by the way, on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game winning streak. They were feeling good about themselves. They came off a 63-53 win over a very good, talented East team. And that I think that Fitch game showed them, like, hey, there are some holes in this defense that we've been getting away with all year, and we can't keep this up. And they definitely turned the corner after that loss to Fitch, and they have not lost since, actually. So and they might want to send a little gift basket to Austintown Fitch and Coach Beanie if they are able to go on and win state. They will play Archbishop Alter in the state semifinals in Dayton. They are the 10 seed in the state when you look at the state rankings, and Ursuline is the 3. So numbers-wise, Ursuline a little bit of an advantage, but when you get to this point, you don't even look at the numbers. You just say, hey, you earned your way to state, and that's pretty dang impressive. So I think everyone obviously gets a ton of respect once you get to this point in the season, and you're at this point where you're facing really good teams that have earned their way to state. But if you look at the bracket, I'm going to break down the Division II Final Four real quick. Ursuline's on one side, obviously. They'll play Alter. That's 3 versus 10. On the other side of the state semifinals, you have the 2 Shelby and the 9 Mayville. If numbers play out, Shelby and Ursuline will be playing each other in a state championship, but we know numbers don't always play out. You look at Alter's run to get here throughout the district championships. Actually, we'll go to district semis first. Alter was able to win over Dayton Carroll 47-40, a close game there. In the regional and district finals, they won by 10 over McNicholas, 64-54. They won in the regional semifinals, 63-42 over Jonathan Alder. And then they won in the regional final against Wyoming, 63-36. So while most teams get tougher games as the tournament goes on, it seems like the margin of victory has gone up for Alter as the games have gone on. Maybe they're getting a little bit more confident and they're starting to spark themselves a little bit, because you look at the district semis, they won by 7. They won the district championship by 10. And then in the regionals, they get wins by 19 and 17. So the regional ended up being a little bit, I don't want to say easier, because everyone works hard to get a regional championship, but score-wise, a little bit less stressful for Alter in the regional than in the district. Maybe that was a really tough district. I don't know much about the Cincinnati-Dayton area as far as basketball, what it's like down there right now, but maybe it was a really tough district and not as tough of a regional. That definitely happens sometimes, but interesting to see the scores go that way when they usually flip the opposite. So that's who Ursuline will have in store for them. As the week goes on, we will preview what Alter brings to the table. We'll dive into their stats and try to share with you guys a little bit of the scouting report on what to expect out of Alter in the state semis. But for now, we will just celebrate the fact that Ursuline is there. They're going to the state semifinals. First time since 1994 that Ursuline basketball is in Dayton. So, well, it used to be Columbus, but now in Dayton for the state semifinals. So we're going to celebrate that. And then when it gets closer to the state semifinals, we'll definitely get into the nitty gritty on who this All-Star team's all about and what they do well, and give you a little bit of a scouting report to what they look like. That does it for the scoreboard. We have one basketball team left to go as Ysn goes for a state championship, and it starts this week in Dayton with the state semis. And then it's a bow on it on Sunday. That'll be one day after the state championship. So hopefully Ysn gets there. They play it on Saturday, and then you can come to Boardman to really put a bow on the end of the season on Sunday at Boardman as we play the All-Star game. Boys and girls. Girls first at 5. Skills competitions between then, and then the boys game after. It'll be a late night. Not gonna shy away from that. If girls game starts at 5, you got to think you're going until probably 9:30 or 10. With a girls game, skills competition, boys game, and then everyone likes to hang out a little bit after, right? So prepare for a late night if you want to see both games, and we can't wait for the All-Star game. Make sure to tune into the Power Hour after us, 3 to 4. We will reveal another celebrity judge that will be judging the dunk contest. You don't want to miss this reveal. The silhouette has some interesting guesses I've seen on social media. That silhouette that we put on our graphics has some interesting ideas. Some close, some not so close. We'll see who the guest celebrity judge is on today's episode of the Power Hour from 3 to 4. So don't miss that either if you're excited for the All-Star game like you know I am. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we have our interview of the day, and it is from Adria Powell, professional volleyball player who started her journey here in Hubbard. So don't go anywhere. That interview coming up next on Running Point after this commercial break, which is brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Back in a bit.
21 News delivers the news as it happens, using the latest technology from where it happens.
Live here outside the Mahoney County.
On air, online,
Wednesday afternoon weather update.
Very dangerous.
and on the 21 News social media platforms.
I'm on the road right now.
21 News, the Valley's only locally owned source for trusted news since 1953.
Craftsmanship to us is 60 years of pride and dedication.
Passed down from generation to generation.
The hardwood floors that your kids take their first steps on.
The solid wood doors you quietly close at night.
The things we create day in and day out are the products that end up turning your house into a home.
At Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods, uncompromising quality and craftsmanship built our business.
And it will keep us moving forward for generations to come.
Going the extra mile at Greenwood Chevrolet means we want to take care of the community that takes care of us too.
And we have to work together always. And that's how you stay in business for 40 years.
You know, I love being a helper because when I help somebody, it makes me feel good.
It means a lot that I can make a difference in others' lives.
So I will do everything I can and just being there for them every step of the way.
I want them to know within the first 5 minutes that they could depend on me. That's what going the extra mile means, only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Before the lights come on, before the workday begins, before a long day is ended, or it's time to have fun. It all starts with the people at Joe Dickey Electric. From replacing a light fixture in your home to building a substation for your business, no job is too big or too small. The people of Joe Dickey Electric power them all. Joe Dickey Electric, over 60 years of powering the Mahoning Valley.
Anthony Hartwig here. We have a very special kind of piece of content for you guys today. We're being joined by former Hubbard Eagle and now all the way from her journey is now a professional volleyball player in the Deutschland of Germany, Adria Powell. Adria, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You got it. We're going to talk about your whole journey, but of course, we have to start with Hubbard. 2017, you're named OHVSCA Player of the Year, obviously, and you brought such great things to Hubbard and great limelight to that program. Talk about your time at Hubbard real quick and tell us what are some of the things you remember about being a Hubbard Eagle not too long ago.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's been forever ago. I feel like so much has happened since that point in my career, but my time at Hubbard was amazing. I had the best 3 years of high school there. I only spent 3 years there, which I'll get into later, but I think that was really like impactful into my journey into becoming the volleyball player and athlete I am today. I think the entire Hubbard school district and city was a great place to grow up. And the program and coaches and girls I was surrounded with there on the volleyball team were incredible. The girls in front of me, the girls behind me, were all very nice and great girls. And it was a great environment to fall in love with the sport. And that's where I became hooked to volleyball. And that's when I decided I wanted to go to Ohio State, and I decided to leave a year early to go to college for multiple reasons. But even though my time at Hubbard was short and only 3 years, they were still an amazing 3 years. And I think we did some incredible things with that program. I think my first year we were 5-17, and then the next year we were like 17-5. So we flipped that record. And then my final season, my junior year, we were, I want to say, like maybe 19 or something. We only lost like one game, and then we lost our last game in the district semifinals, but we just did incredible things to that program. And it wasn't just me. I mean, my whole class, my last year, we were all incredible athletes, an incredible group, and we did a lot of things. And I'm really proud of how great we became in such a short amount of time and the work we put in. And it's made a lasting impact, as you can see now. I mean, I feel like Hubbard always has a really good volleyball program, so it's cool to be a part of a small piece of Hubbard history.
In that community, you fell in love with the sport of volleyball. Shout out some names and some coaches that you had early on in the Hubbard community that you think helped you fall in love with this sport.
Yeah, well, I have to give a special shout out to my dad, Greg Powell. He coached me in 7th and 8th grade. And then once I got to high school, he was the freshman coach, but he's now the head coach at Hubbard for the volleyball team there. But I mean, he was one of my first volleyball coaches and still tries to coach me up. But he was definitely the most impactful out of all my coaches. But my head coach for the varsity team on Hubbard was Jeremy Porter. He had a great impact on me, and I think he saw a lot of my potential way before I saw it. And Amanda Lingenfelder, she went to Hubbard. She played there. She coaches at Howlands now. But she was my very first club coach. And she was very impactful as well.
Do you remember when you started to feel yourself falling in love with the sport and it going from just something that you did for fun to something that you took so seriously and obviously took you to such high places? But when did it click that okay, this is a sport I want to pour that amount of time into and follow my dreams into this sport?
Yeah, I would have to say going into my freshman year is when everything kind of clicked. Before that, in middle school, I was a soccer athlete through and through, and soccer and volleyball season obviously clashed, and that's when I had to make a choice, and I chose volleyball. Thankfully, I'm very grateful I made that decision. But that's when I decided to mostly focus on volleyball as my main sport, and that's when I started to get a lot of attention from colleges. I had my first offer from a D1 school, YSU, in 8th grade. So that's when it kind of opened my eyes to like, oh, wow, like I can continue playing after high school. And that was only the beginning. I had no idea all of the opportunities I was going to have access to. But yeah, that's when I decided to switch to Infinity to start playing there for club. And it's a little more serious than the other clubs I'd played for in the past. So I got a more serious club team, which helped me get recruited by bigger schools. And that's just kind of how that went.
People in the recruiting process now don't understand the wild, wild west that it was back, when you were in 8th grade. Like you said, you had an offer in 8th grade to a college. Talk about this recruiting process and what it was like going through that. Before you even stepped foot on a high school team, you had offers from schools, Division I schools, saying, hey, we'd like you to come and verbally commit. Like, what was that like going through a process like that doesn't even exist anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy time back then. Being so young and getting an offer, I mean, there was a lot of self-doubt in myself. I was like, Me and my parents like, "Are you sure? Like, I still have so much time to develop. Like, what if I don't keep getting better? What if I peak too early?" And there was a lot of doubt there, and it's scary because thankfully the YSU coaches didn't put pressure on me, but a lot of other universities and colleges will put pressure on you to make decisions fast and to fill up spots so they can, well, if they don't get you, they want the next best person or athlete. So a lot of colleges do put pressure on you, and it's stressful because I mean, you're 4 or 5 years away from going to college and reaching that point. So you don't know what you want to do with your life. You don't know what you want to major in or what type of college environment you want to go to, or do you want to stay close to home or far away, and just like what you're looking for. So there's a lot of unknowns in that point, which adds a ton of extra stress and pressure. But I mean, when we would go to club tournaments, I mean, in 8th grade, freshman year, sophomore year of high school, I mean, our one volleyball court is surrounded by like tens of coaches, like tons of college coaches just watching, and they're everywhere. And it's very intimidating to see like all of like the logos on the shirts and the hoodies as you're walking by, and you're so young, and there's a lot of pressure to perform in those moments. And even though we are young girls, like you have to play well. There's a lot of competition, and it's a lot being that young and having to send like hundreds of emails. I sent so many emails every single night and every single week to colleges, letting them know I'm going to be in this city and my team is playing in this tournament at this time on this court. And they would be asking for phone calls and asking me to come to different camps in the summer. But all of the colleges have their camps at the same time. So it was wild back then.
A little bit more under control now in the recruiting, thankfully. Thankfully, we don't have 7th and 8th graders thinking about college yet.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your decision. Ohio State, is the one that you fell on. And you said, you left Hubbard 1 year early to go start your career at Ohio State. Just go through everything that went into that decision. What made Ohio State feel like home to you? And then obviously the decision to go in and leave high school a year early and to start your career at Ohio State as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it was kind of a no-brainer. Once I stepped foot onto Ohio State's campus, I knew that was where I was going to go. I mean, just being from Ohio, I think Ohio State just kind of like a dream that if I had the opportunity to play there, of course I would take it. There was obviously a lot of like doubts and like stressors of like, oh, well, am I good enough to be there? I was a big fish in a small pond, kind of coming from Hubbard in this area, but now this is like the Big Ten, which is the best conference in all of the nation for college volleyball. So there was a lot of what ifs, but I decided to go for it, which is always my motto of like, why not? No regrets. But the coaching staff there, I went through 2 different coaching staffs during my 5 years at Ohio State, and they were both amazing. The ones I got recruited from, Jeff Carlston, I still have a relationship and talk to him to this day. So he's a great guy, a great coach. And he really created a great family environment at Ohio State, which me and my parents loved. Even before I was there, we would always be traveling down to Columbus to meet with the current team and grow those relationships. So you were really like a family there. And then obviously everything else Ohio State has to offer, from the facilities, how volleyball gets treated there, and all the other sports, specifically women's sports. We get treated very well there, from charter flights and the amount of gear we get and the meals and the hotels and just all the extra stuff was a great bonus. And then, I mean, the academic side of it, I wanted to go pre-med, and I was a biology major. So they had the program I wanted. And obviously Ohio State has some great academics there. So I feel like everything was just like a no-brainer of like, why not? Ohio State's just amazing. And then talking about why I decided to go a year early, I remember it was in the middle of my volleyball season, my junior year of high school, and I was already committed to Ohio State. And one day my coach was like, oh, like, can we talk on the phone one night? And I was like, sure, which we did. It was a common thing to do just to keep up a relationship, just to see what's going on. And he brought that up that idea of like, hey, like, we would like you to graduate a year early from high school and come to Ohio State, because they had a ton of injuries. So they were down really bad with the numbers and barely had enough to play. And there was an opening spot for my position. So I would get a ton of extra training and like playing time my freshman year, which is hard as a freshman. So I was very like in the beginning of my mind, I'm like, there's no way I'm doing this. That's crazy. Like I would never do that. I want my last year. I'm not ready yet. And the more I thought about it, I was like, well, there's nowhere else better to train in the country than the college I'm about to go to. So why not go do it? No regrets again, like I said. So I decided to do it. And I think it was the best decision I've ever made. And I don't regret it whatsoever. I mean, honestly, I didn't miss much in high school. The only thing I really missed is, well, I didn't even miss that I got to go to prom, so still came back and did that. But the class I ended up joining, the grade above me, they ended up being my best friends, and we had a great season my freshman year. So.
And then you still had to have a senior night, right? So you still got to have a senior night and senior night.
Yeah.
What about the Hubbard community when you made that decision? In the volleyball team, the players that you spent that time with, what kind of support did they give you? Like, hey, you got to make this decision. This is right for you. What were the conversations with them like when you made that decision?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were very supportive at the time. I think I was trying to be more quiet about it because at the time I was still like unsure, and it didn't even like feel real to like, oh, well, this is going to be my last season in high school. So, I mean, I think I was more like reserved about having those conversations with them. But when it did come up and when I did mention it, they were very supportive and had my back and were like, yeah, like that's amazing. Like you go follow your dreams, you go do you. So I'm very thankful that they were by my side throughout all of that. But I distinctively remember after we lost, and it was like my last high school game in Jefferson, and like just could not stop crying, like sobbing because I just couldn't believe it was over. And I was just hugging my dad, and I was like, wow, it was crazy because it didn't feel real. It felt like I would still have another year, and it was all just like a dream, or like, oh, I actually do have another year. But yeah, but everyone was very supportive in the moment, and it just made it a lot easier.
All right, so you go to Ohio State your freshman year. You start 20 out of their 32 matches. You finish with over 100 kills. What was it like going from Hubbard, Ohio, to all of a sudden the biggest conference in volleyball? You're playing the big names in volleyball. You're playing Penn State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, et cetera, et cetera. What was that jump like, and how did you manage to go and make an immediate impact as a freshman?
Yeah, that jump was wild. I was definitely just thrown in, and I turned 17 like 2 weeks before I was on campus, so I was very young. And I think a lot of it was just I was so clueless to what was happening, where I just went in with like no thoughts, just like no expectations, which I just think was better. Of like, hey, I'm just gonna go in there and work really hard. And the position that our team was in of like not having enough players, it's like I didn't have any other choice. I had to play. I had to be out there and help my team out. So there was no one on the bench saying, well, like, oh, well, if I do bad, then they can just come in and they'll do good and help the team. Like I had to find a way and had to figure out a way to perform and get better for my team because they were depending on me. It was definitely an eye-opening experience. I remember my very first Big Ten game was at Wisconsin, sold out crowd, and I get thrown in there and I'm matched up against a girl who is 6'10", and now she's on the national team. And I was like, oh my, this is Big Ten volleyball. This is what it's going to be like for the next however many years. And that kind of showed me of it's intense. It was our first year. We didn't do well in the Big Ten, but it definitely helped all of us grow a ton and figure out ways to win, because at that level, everyone has talent, but it's like you need to learn how to win. And we definitely had to learn how to win because it was a struggle for the first couple of years, but we had a ton of fun and we made a lot of memories. I just think a lot of us got to try out different positions and try out new skills, and we had that freedom because there were no expectations on, oh, well, we should win this many games because of our situation. So we had a lot of fun and we got a lot better at volleyball. So
that last year in Ohio State, 2022, you make that deep tournament run. You lead the team in blocks. It feels like everything's coming to fruition. Talk about that last year at Ohio State, what it meant, especially after, the COVID year and not playing in 2021, and what it meant to you to finish your fifth year at Ohio State with a strong 2022 and making that really deep tournament run.
Yeah, I mean, that last season at Ohio State, I think I'll cherish forever. I think it's It is, and it will forever be my favorite season of volleyball and my favorite team I've ever played with. That team and that group of girls, I can honestly say that every single one of us were best friends. We were all very close. There was no issues. We were a very tight-knit group, and we had been playing together for many seasons, very experienced. My senior class, I think there was 5 of us, and we were all starters, multiple All-Americans in that group. And it was just, when we were playing together, we were having so much fun, and there was very minimal pressure when we were playing. So it just made it very easy to win and perform and do well together. And we just knew each other like the back of our hand. Like, we had a connection that is undescribable, and it just made it so fun to go out there and play the sport that we love, and to be able to set all of those records and make it that far in the tournament was just something that we had been chasing since my sophomore year and their freshman year when that class came in. And it was just achieving our dreams to make it that far, because a lot of the media and people were talking about, oh, well, they can't get past the Sweet 16 because we had been stuck in that round the past 2 seasons. And even we were a little bit doubtful of like, oh, well, can we do it? Like, will we be able to finally get past it? And when we did, and we beat Minnesota to go to the Elite Eight, it was just such a weight lifted off our shoulders. And it was just the best feeling in the world. And it just felt like nothing could stop us. And I'm just so grateful for that entire season and that team and everything that we experienced that last year, because it was incredible.
And then because of COVID, you have one more year of eligibility. So you get to go graduate from Ohio State and then start your graduate program and have one more year to play volleyball. And you decide to go to Clemson in the ACC, which, for those people that don't know volleyball or don't know the college world of volleyball, it's like the conference is up and coming, right? It's a Big Ten's the big monster. They've been the big conference, but ACC volleyball trying to knock on that door. So you go to Clemson. What was that decision like? What drew you to Clemson, and what was the deciding factor into picking up your bags and going to the ACC?
Yeah, well, I think number one, you kind of mentioned on it a little bit, but the ACC is, I would argue, is the second best conference for volleyball in the U.S. So they have Pitt, Louisville, Georgia Tech, really great teams in there, Miami, Florida State. So really good competition. If you're not going to be in the Big Ten, I'd want to be in the ACC. And when it came to choosing Clemson, I mean, I think there was a couple different factors in there. I think number one being the coaching staff there. Jackie Simpson-Keir, my head coach there, she's incredible. I mean, having the conversations we did when I was getting recruited there, I mean, I asked all the questions you could possibly think of, making sure that wherever I'm going to go, I'm going to be happy and I'm going to enjoy my time there. And we would end up talking for hours upon hours of just, we ended up talking about life outside of volleyball and just things that we both had in common. And she just became a really good friend and someone very trustworthy. And we still have a really close relationship. So she was definitely one of the biggest pieces of why I chose there. And just even her knowledge for volleyball. Very smart coach, knows a lot about the technique and wants to help you outside of volleyball. She had a lot of information and connections to the professional volleyball world, which is obviously was a dream of mine at the time. So she played pro for a couple seasons. So I knew that if I want to play pro, I'm going to need all the help I can get in wisdom and guidance. And I knew that she could provide that. So that was very attractive in Clemson. And then at Ohio State, I was kind of just like one of the pieces in like a big unit of like very strong personalities. I was obviously a leader, but more of a lead by example and hard work type of person. But I kind of wanted to be that lead by voice, be that strong leader, and kind of take on a new role wherever I went. So I knew Clemson was looking for that. They were looking for a strong, powerful leader that can help them reach a new level for their program. And historically, Clemson has kind of been mid-level in the ACC. And I knew that I had a lot of experience and wisdom to help give their young team through my time at Ohio State. So I wanted to see what I could do, what I was capable of. I've watched great leaders at Ohio State my entire career, and now I wanted to take what I learned from them and apply it at Clemson. So that's what I try to do. And then besides that, just the university itself of Clemson, obviously in South Carolina. So it's a little bit warmer. And it's more of a country type of vibe. So I wanted something completely different than Ohio State for my last year. And so I just went for it, and I loved my time there. So
All right, so now why you're here, of course, is because you went from Clemson and your professional volleyball dreams have officially come through. You go to Germany now, and you're there. You've been there for like what, a little over a month.
Yes, yeah.
So let's go into how this opportunity came up for you, and what the road has been like to get to Germany.
Yeah, so it all started back in last fall during volleyball season, my last season at Clemson. Jackie, my head coach there, she helped me a ton throughout this whole process. I was kind of clueless going into it of like, where do I even begin? Obviously, I have former teammates of mine that are playing pro, but it's just completely different when you actually start to step foot into that world. So I had a couple agents reach out to me on my own, and then there were some others that reached out to Jackie, my head coach. So she kind of went through and she actually talked to them all on the phone and kind of did like pre-interviews before you even got to me. And she asked them all these questions because she knew like what to look for and what to ask with them. So she kind of like pre-screened them all. And then after that, she came to me and she had it all like organized and written out of like, hey, these agencies are the best. They're going to have the best connections, the most contacts to teams and clubs over in Europe, or these teams deal with more people in Asia. And so she laid it all out for me. And then I had conversations with 2 different agents, my top 2. And then I ended up choosing one. So now I'm with Image for Sport. So I had my agent who I signed with as soon as season was over. And I had a couple conversations with him throughout my season, but you can't sign until you're done playing. And then once season is over, then your agent can start looking for clubs for you to play for. So I talked a lot about what I wanted in a club. I mean, for this first half season, I knew I wanted to go for a couple months because their season runs from like August all the way until May. So I wouldn't get to go until my season was over. So I'd only be there for a couple months. And so I wasn't too picky about what I wanted. I knew I was going to be switching positions. So I was a middle blocker in college, and now I'm a right side hitter. So that was going to be very different and challenging. So I kind of told him, like, I'll go anywhere in Europe. I'll go anywhere that will take me. I just am along for the ride. I will be learning this first half season, so I'm down for whatever. So he had a bunch of interest from me. He would always contact me and tell me, hey, like, there's a team in Finland that's interested. There's a team in Greece or Italy, and the different leagues and what leagues are the best and what leagues or what the team is like and the coaches are like. And so he was giving me all this information. And then I heard about a team in Zool, Germany, which is where I'm at now. And Germany is one of the best leagues in the world. I would say it's top 5. So really good league, great coach. And my team is top 5 in the league. So we're not only in the best league, but one of the top teams in the league. So a really good opportunity. And I was like, for sure, like I'm down, I'm in 100%. And Germany's a great country. I mean, I didn't really know a ton about it, but I'd never been there before, but I know it's very centrally located, close to a bunch of other countries for travel wise. So just kind of no regrets, YOLO, hopped on the plane, came over here. And I mean, I'm not going to lie, it was very challenging the first couple of weeks, very hard to adjust just to the time change and the practice schedule. Even the type of volleyball they play over here is very different than what I was used to, in a whole other level. All of the athletes are insane and incredible. So it's been a great environment to learn and get better from. But I would say now I absolutely love the life here. And I love being a professional volleyball player, and my team is great. All of my teammates are amazing and we're so welcoming. And yeah, I'm loving life right now. So I'm very happy with my decision.
So you were able to say YOLO, just going to go to Germany, no regrets. The decision that you made to go to Ohio State early was kind of like that same thing, where you just said, you know what, no regrets, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go to Ohio State, going to go there early. Did that decision help, make these decisions a little bit easier? The fact that you've been in that kind of situation where you had to make decisions that were just like, hey, you know what, YOLO, as you say. Did those decisions earlier on in your career make it easier for you to just say, hey, you know what, I'm going to hop on a plane, go to Germany, and may the best things happen for me?
Yeah, I would say 100%. I think that's like a life motto of mine and something that I try to always follow, just go for it. So I think because I'm always used to like just going for it and it's always worked out pretty well for me, that it made this decision very easy for me. Like I knew it was only going to be a couple months. I told myself, even if you have the worst experience and it's terrible, you're going to be back in May, so you can survive 2 or 3 months. Like you'll be fine, Adria. So I mean, that's even kind of what I did with Clemson. I mean, it was very far from home, which is very different than I was used to being at Ohio State, and I was just kind of like, hey, just why not? So it's always worked out, and that's just kind of what I did here. And I'm not really homesick anymore. I'm very used to it now, and yeah, it's been great.
Had you been outside of the country much before this? Like, had you had experience outside of the United States?
Yes. So at Ohio State, my sophomore year, we went on an international tour to Brazil and Peru over the summer in 2019, I think. So I went to South America, and then this past year at Clemson in 2023, we went to France, Croatia, and Bosnia for 2 weeks.
So obviously cultures are different outside the United States, and now you're living in a different culture. The way people act are a little bit different. You know, the way you go about life is a little bit different. Are there any culture shocks that you've experienced so far with, transferring from being in the American culture to now you living in the German culture?
Oh, where do I begin? I mean, it was very different. I remember just getting off the plane and I had no idea even where to go. There was no English on any signs anywhere. I felt like no one spoke English where I was at the time. And I didn't even know how to get to my coaches who were waiting for me in the van to take me to my city. It was crazy. Just from the beginning, when I stepped off the plane into Germany, I was like, wow, this is completely different. But I think in my city specifically, I'm in a smaller town of Germany. So the population is a lot older, and the older generation doesn't speak a lot of English. So it's mostly just German here. So, I apologize. Sorry, I had an alarm set. Yeah, there's very minimal English here. So I'm trying to learn German as best as I can, but it's very difficult. So we try to just use a lot of like Google Translate and pointing and like hand signals. I mean, the food is very different, but I think it's really delicious, and I think it's way healthier than the food in America. I mean, I just feel like everything, the way that their lifestyle, I feel like Germans are very different than Americans. I mean, I don't know just where I've been so far. I don't want to speak for all of Germany, but they were kind of very like cold, I guess you could say. I'm a very like outgoing, like happy, smiley person, and I feel like no one really smiles back if you're just like walking around. I mean, they're very nice if you actually like need help, but yeah, I feel like just every part of life is very different. I mean, even driving here, I have a car here, and it's pretty stressful to drive for me so far because the signs are different. They're all in German and everything's in kilometers, and I'm like, I don't know what that means. Or like even when I'm lifting weights, it's in kilograms and not pounds. So yeah, I feel like every aspect of life has been very different, but I've gotten used to the change so far. So
have you driven on the Autobahn yet?
Yes, I have.
That's gotta be stressful because you can just go as fast as you want,
Yes, I remember when my coach, we were driving on the Autobahn to like my city from the airport, and it was a 3-hour drive, and he was flying on the Autobahn, and we were going so fast, and I just saw on the speedometer like the kilometers per hour. I didn't know what that like translated to in miles per hour, but I was like, we're going like so fast, and we were weaving in and out of cars, and they're crazy drivers here. And I remember like texting my mom, and I was like, I'm not even going to make it to my city. Like, I'm scared we're going to crash. So yeah, they're wild drivers here, and the Autobahn's crazy. So I try to steer clear of that part of driving.
It's pretty much, if you're going to go in the fast lane, you better be going fast.
Oh yeah,
because there are speed limits, but it's very loose, and you can floor it if you want to go on the Autobahn in Germany.
Oh yeah.
So last thing, just to bring it full circle, I want to go back to things you learned in the Hubbard community that you still carry with you. If you had to take, things that you think you still have that are like in your DNA from Hubbard that you carry everywhere you go, what are some things that you think that, just, exude I'm from Hubbard when you're wherever you're going?
That's a good question. I think when I think of Hubbard, I think of like community and like family. So I'm not really sure if that answers your question directly, but I think being from Hubbard, it's such a small town that everyone knows everybody, and you kind of sort of become a family with whatever pocket you're in Hubbard. So whether that's the grade you're in, the sports and the activities you're in, your church, your family that lives there, like you just become really tight knit with the people that you're surrounded with, and you're kind of like you're the Hubbard people, like you have grown and become that tight knit group. And I think having groups like that in a circle like that is so impactful and important in your life to have like success in your journey. So I think wherever I've gone, whether that is Ohio State, Clemson, and now Germany, I'm always trying to find like my group of people that I can trust and that I can lean on and help me get through whatever I'm going through. So I think I learned that from a really small age of like the importance of family and friendship and a tight-knit community and surrounding yourself with great people. So that's what I always try to do here. And I think, yeah, I don't know, wherever I go, people are always asking me, oh, where are you from? And yeah, it's very easy to say, oh, Youngstown, Ohio, or I'm an hour outside of like Pittsburgh and Cleveland, but I always say Hubbard, Ohio. They might not know where that's at, but I'm always representing Hubbard. And even my first weekend here at our home game in Germany, I said Hubbard, and one of the announcers actually knew where Hubbard was. So Hubbard is represented
There you
in
go.
Germany. So yeah, it's a small place, but it holds a very special place in my heart.
Make people Google it.
Yeah,
make them discover where Hubbard is.
Yes.
I want to give you the opportunity to give some advice out before we let you go. We have a volleyball player in the area that is committed to Pitt. She's from Crestview. Abby M. Going to Pitt, doing the same thing you're doing. Back in Hubbard, going from small town volleyball to all of a sudden big ACC, one of the best volleyball programs in the country. What's some advice that you can give her to prepare, for that and to be able to go to Pitt and to be have a successful career there?
Yeah, well, first off, I've talked to Abby many times. I go to Infinity, which is her club, all the time with my dad to practice and to help coach them. So I've known Abby for a while, and she's an amazing athlete. She's going to absolutely crush it at Pitt. So yeah, she's a great girl, and I wish her nothing but the best at Pitt. I think she's going to do great things there with that program, and that staff is great. So I wish her all the best. But I would just say to always go for it and to not let fear hold you back from anything, and just have that YOLO mindset of I think it's very easy being from small towns, like Crestview is a small town, Hubbard's a small town, like to be used to your comfort zone and to be used to like having things a certain way. And it's scary to go to a new city and go to a big program like that, but just to push yourself out there, like speak up when you have the chance. I remember I was so quiet as a freshman, but speak up whenever you can. Push yourself outside of your comfort zone, try new things, go for it, take big swings and big moments, and you might fail epically, but eventually you will succeed, and that's just going to help you grow and become a great player. So yeah, I would just say go for it, work your butt off and put your head down and keep grinding and working hard, and eventually the success will come if you just stay true to yourself and work hard.
Adria, you say small part of Hubbard history. I say one of the most successful athletes to come out of Hubbard. Not too many people have gone pro, and you're definitely one of them. I could be wrong. First pro volleyball player to come out of Hubbard. Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. We're so proud that you're continuing your dreams. And if you need anything from me here back home, let us know. We'll get you hooked up. Once again, thank you for your time, and we appreciate it, and good luck in the rest of your time down there in Germany.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
And that was Adria Powell taking us a little bit into overtime, but that's okay because it's Monday. It's bringing out the new week, and hopefully everyone is inside watching this instead of outside having to deal with the brutal cold that we have on this wonderful Monday afternoon, but cold. So that'll do it for today's episode of Running Point. I want to first off thank everyone for tuning in today. We appreciate the support and great numbers, especially I'm looking people on Twitter watching like crazy. Yeah, let's do it. get on that Twitter. I like it. And then obviously thank you to Adria Powell for giving us her time all the way in Germany. It was, I think, 1:00 when I interviewed her over here, but it was, 8:00 over there. So we thank her for giving us her time and talking to us. I think that's our first interview from Europe. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I think it's the first time we've interviewed someone in Europe. So we thank her for her time. We wish her the best of luck in the rest of her German season. And I can't wait to, maybe get some stories when she's back home. And then we want to remind you that tune into Power Hour at 3 to 4. We'll have a announcement about another celebrity judge in the YSN All-Star Game dunk contest. And come back tomorrow for another episode of Running Point from 1 to 2, which is always brought to you by our good friends over at Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Thank you so much again for tuning in today. Have a wonderful evening, and we will see you all tomorrow. Oh, by the way, one more reminder. This tonight, 7:30, YSN All-Star Draft as well. Find out where all the players are going to be locked into the rosters, who coaches will be having on their teams. Make sure to tune in tonight, 7:30, YSN All-Star Game roster. Don't forget that. We will see you tomorrow on Running Point. As